that has really been the theme this week, just knitting things and finishing it right before giving it away. Hi, welcome back to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Oline and I'm a knitter from Norway, and welcome to my knitting podcast. Here I talk about all things knitting, yarn, current project, finished project, projects I want to cast on, yarn I want to get, just everything knitting related, everything that comes to mind while I sit here and chat. But before we get into all of that, let me talk about what I'm wearing, because today my Violeta is finally finished. I've been working on this for so long. I think I started this in early January, I think. And I literally finished this 10 minutes ago because I knew I was going to podcast today, and late last night I was like, oh my god, my Violeta still isn't done. I've been talking about me wanting to get this done for weeks now. I just need to get it done. I don't want this to be a current project for another podcast. So I sat down and started knitting. I had a whole sleeve to go. So sat down, started knitting, and just decided to speed knit this sleeve. And it also has a cable. So, takes a bit more time. Luckily it doesn't have any increases, so you can just knit away without really thinking too much once you get in the groove with the cable. But it takes a bit longer, and I think I stayed up until 2 last night just so I would get like a head start on the sleeve for today, so I could finish it before this podcast. And I think I did like half of the sleeve. I counted how many repeats of this cable I had, and I knew on the first sleeve that I had 44 cables, and I think when I stopped for the night on this sleeve I had 12 left, but that's counted all the way from the neckline and where the raglan is. So I think I was about halfway on the actual sleeve, and then I did the last 12 cables today and the ribbing. And now the sweater is finally done. So this is it. Of course, keep in mind that it is not blocked yet, because I literally cast off this sleeve 10 minutes ago. It's been no time. I just finished it and then went straight to podcast to show off my new sweater. So here is the cast off that I just did. It does flare a bit. I don't know if you can see, it flares a bit, the cast off on the rib. But I am 99% sure that that will all sort itself out in blocking. Also, if I move around, the sleeves are a bit short. You can see they stop like a bit before my wrist. I would like this to be covered. But since this hasn't been blocked, I think it will grow a bit. Since it is so structured, I think it will stretch out a little bit. And also, this is very much a sweater I imagine myself wearing in spring and warmer weather. So it doesn't really bother me that the sleeves are a bit shorter, because like this is not the sweater I've made to keep me warm through winter with all of this lace in the front. It's not meant to be a warm sweater like that. So I've decided that short sleeves are fine with me for this one. I actually quite like it with the silhouette and how feminine the rest of it is, because I think a bit shorter sleeves are a bit more feminine. But this is it. The neck is a bit tight now, even though there are German short rows in the back, but I think all of this will work itself out in blocking. Now I'm just so excited to actually be done with this sweater and be able to wear it. I just know that I'm going to get loads of wear out of this one. I love the color, and I don't think I'm going to get over this color. I haven't really knit that much with pinks and reds and lilacs at all before. I love blues, so I've just been knitting with different hues of blue, and then greys and beiges and browns. But I definitely am going to make myself knit more with pinks, because it's so fun and I do actually love it. And I'll try to show you the details here. Of course, with the raglan you have these cables on the body coming out from the raglan, but on the sleeve you only have this cable all the way down, and of course the lace panel in front. This has so many fun design techniques to it, and I've had so much fun working it up, but I must say at the end I was kind of tired of it. It had been on my needles for so long, and I had been excited to be actually able to wear it for so long that I kind of just felt like now I just need to get this off my needles. But it's finally done. I'm excited to wear it, and I ended up not using that much yarn for it either. I think I used 125 grams of mohair, which is 5 skeins, and I used 5 skeins of a bit over, I think, 5 skeins and like 10 meters of another skein. So just dipped into that 6th skein for the flora. So I still have leftovers. I had bought 7 kid silk, and then I just had the pink in my stash from before, but I still have 2 left of each color, and I don't really know what to do with that, because what can you do with just 2 skeins of each? It's not a sweater quantity, it's not really anything. So if you have any suggestions on what to do with this yarn, because I have really loved working with this combination, it has turned into such a pretty color, so I really want to continue pairing these together. So if you have any tips, please let me know. But I think that is it for the Violeta sweater, and now we can move into my current projects. And I have actually been knitting quite a lot this week. I'm very pleased with how much knitting I actually have gotten done, but this project does not really represent any of that knitting time. I don't know, I kind of feel bad for this project because I have so many hopes and goals and dreams for this, but it just kind of lays forgotten in a corner. Luckily, now that my Violeta is done, this will get more attention, but I don't think I've knit a single stitch on this for almost 2 weeks now. I have these like stitch holders here, and those have not been removed a single time. But now I'm really excited to actually get back to this. This sweater was supposed to be my February sweater because I do have a goal of finishing a project for myself every month. It doesn't have to be a big project, it can also be a small one, but this was what was supposed to be my February knit, and this is supposed to be my March knit. Luckily, I finished this quite early in March, even though I didn't finish it in February, so I still think I can be able to make this my March sweater. I'm really excited to wear it. I have just been eyeing my sun sweater that matches, and I just want to be able to wear this match soon. So this is definitely something I'm picking up now that this is done. I still haven't decided, since I just finished this, I haven't really decided what's going to be my next like main project or what I'm going to be diving into next. So if you want to help me with that, go ahead and tell me in the comments. I'm going to be sharing some of my other plans and everything, but I don't quite know where my focus is going to be after the Violeta, but this is one of the contenders because I do really want this done, and it's really fun to work on because of all of the marling, and I'm going to do a bit of a science experiment to figure out how to make the marling match better with the knit back and forth and knit in the round. So I am really excited to finally get to that science project, but I don't know if this stockinette in the round is going to be like my main project, or if it's just going to be something I have on the side when my head's a bit tired. But that's still it for the Melange sweater. This is the Melange sweater, if I didn't mention, by Petiteknit. Not a single stitch knit, but I can mention what yarn it's knit in. This is knit in Drops Flora. I do really love Drops Flora, so a lot of my knits are made with Drops Flora, and this is made with the white and the denim blue, and those look so wonderful together. It's kind of like the sky, because this is kind of like the sky and this is like the clouds. So I just love everything about it. And then I had my other whip, because this week I actually only have 2 whips, is my wedding dress, and this is of course going to be a whip for quite some time. I don't think this will ever kind of be my main project, because I started a year before my wedding, so I have quite a lot of time, and I don't really want it to be finished like months and months and months ahead of my wedding. I want to be knitting on it like steadily until my wedding, so this is just going to be a project I knit a little bit on here and there. I don't really know what kind of schedule I'm going to put this on. I've been thinking about maybe making this my weekend project, but I also think that would just give me too many knitting hours and it would be done too soon, since this is mainly stockinette. But I have made quite a lot of progress since last week. This was my project in the car ride on the way home. So this is like from the bottom up, so it's from here to here. So you see it's really starting to get there. It's going to, when it's done, it's going to be hitting about here. So I am a little bit over halfway done, and the reason I've stopped in the middle of a round is that I used up my first skein of sisu. Sisu is like half the length of the alpaca følgetråd that I'm also knitting with. So that's how far I've gotten so far. I do really want to just knit on this to figure out if the top is going to fit, if my ideas are going to work out, and figure out how to do the arm construction, everything. So I think I'm still going to be knitting quite a bit on this just to figure that out. But once I get to the skirt, and what I'm guessing will be the easy part, I'm not going to knit as much on it, just because I really want to savor it and knit on it for quite some time. Completely different to all of my other projects that I just want to whip out and finish as fast as possible. This is a project I really just want to keep on my needles. But this is the fabric. So far I'm really pleased with the color. Of course, the cable is just looking prettier the more repeats it gets. I'm obsessed. I'm just looking at it all the time. I'm also quite pleased with that it's not that stretchy and not that see-through. I have gone down a needle size from the first time I tried to make this, because then I tried to make it on 4mm and that was just way too see-through. So now I'm knitting it on 3mm, and I think the fabric is exactly what I want, and I'm also really pleased with the color. Was a bit worried that the alpaca følgetråd would be a bit too yellow, but I am just really pleased with how the fabric is looking, and also the drape of it, even though it's not washed yet. And hopefully the fact that sisu has a bit of nylon in it, and the fact that I'm knitting with alpaca følgetråd will make this sturdy enough to not just like stretch in every direction, because this will grow to be quite big. Now this is just like the start of the top, but once you get like the long skirt on it, hopefully I'll be able to make it ankle length. I'll have to see when I get to that point how much weight this can actually hold without being pulled and ruined. But my goal is ankle length, so hopefully the yarn I've chosen has enough hold and is sturdy enough to be able to take on all of that weight. It isn't really that stretchy now because I'm knitting it quite tightly, so I hope all of those things help. But this is the wedding dress so far. Yeah, but I think that's all for my active projects. I don't have a lot to update on because most of my knitting time this week has been spent actually finishing projects, and I've just been having so much fun actually finishing projects, because the last few weeks I feel like I haven't actually finished anything. I've just been knitting away at my current projects and felt like I haven't really gotten anywhere. So this week I've been knitting a lot of smaller projects, and that has been super nice to feel like I'm actually being productive with my knitting time. Unfortunately, most of my finished items are already given away, so I'm going to be showing pictures, and hopefully that will be enough. But the first thing I finished this week, I finished almost immediately after the last podcast, and that was those small mittens for my twin cousins. I made Lavrans mittens for my son last week, and I just really fell in love with the pattern all over again. And we were going to visit my twin cousins on the way back home because we were in Sandnes last week. So on the way back home, we visited my twin cousins for the first time, and I just wanted to be able to give them a little gift the first time I met them. So I made those Lavrans mittens for my twin cousins in the smallest size, so in the 0 to 1 year size, and in that size you don't have to do thumbs, so it really went very quickly because babies have very small hands, and when you don't have to do increases and go back and do the thumb and all of the ends you have to weave in because of the thumb, that really saved me a lot of time. So I was able to crank out, I think I did the first pair of mittens the same day that I podcasted, and then the other pair of mittens I did on the car ride there. And I made the mittens in Drops Merino Extra Fine, and I did one pair in the light grey color, and I did one pair in the medium grey color, just so you would be able to differentiate them a little bit. And I was able to give those away, so that was really nice. And those were the first things I finished, but actually in between the pairs of mittens I made a Sophie shawl because we were going to visit my fiance's grandma in Sandnes, so I also wanted to give her something when we visited her. I really love to just give things to people when I visit them, apparently, and that I often choose to give them knitting. So I wanted to give her something, but I didn't have a lot of time to make it because I'm not great at planning ahead. So I tried to figure out what I could do with the yarn I had, and we had already been to Sandnes Garn, so I had quite a lot of yarn to choose from. But I figured out that I would make a Sophie scarf because those are quite small and go by quite quickly, and I decided to make it in the Petiteknit because I really wanted to try that yarn out for the first time. So I did make her that one, started knitting, and I just knit as much as I could. Also had a late night staying up to knit on that Sophie scarf just to finish it, and I literally finished it in the car outside her house when we were going to visit her. So that was also something I finished, like, I think a minute before I gave it away. So I think the theme of this week is just finishing things right before you're giving it away. But yeah, I made that Sophie scarf. I knit with tin Cardigan, and I double stranded that just because I felt like that would be the best gauge for a scarf. And it was a lovely color, it was lovely to work up. I didn't get a chance to wash that either, but I think it would be really lovely once it's washed. So that's also something I made. So just those 3 first finished projects I made this week, I made before I had even gotten back home. And of course all of those are given away because they had to be done so I could give them away while we were traveling back home. And after that, on the road trip, I worked on my wedding dress, but when we got back home, I was really in the mood to finish what had been my main project while we were in Sandnes, and that was this Carl's cardigan. And I think when we left to go to Sandnes, I had just done the ribbing down here, but that made it the perfect project to work on a bit here and there while we were around in the city. So I had done almost all of the body before we got back home. I think I just did one of these repeats after we got home, and then I started on the sleeves. And of course, as you can see, the sleeves are the one thing on this cardigan that is stockinette, and they are knit on 4mm, and this is knit in Petiteknit, and also this color I'm obsessed, the golden brown. And all of those things together, finally doing stockinette, just plain stockinette, after doing all of this structure, child's garment on 4mm needles, just everything was so motivating. So I think I cranked out both of these sleeves in one evening or one day, because it's just really fun to knit stockinette, I think, and these sleeves aren't that big, so, and also doing increases keeps it interesting. So I just kept going, and all of a sudden I was done with both sleeves. And then I had to start doing the raglan decreases, and that's when I remembered why I prefer knitting top down, because when you do decreases, when you knit bottom up, I just think it's really uncomfortable to knit around the sleeves, because it's just so tight. If you've knit bottom up, you probably understand what I'm trying to say, but with the sleeve it's just really tight, because you have more stitches than you really have the space for in the underarm, so it's just a bit cramped on the needles. But once I had done couple of rounds of decreases, that got loads better. So at the end it wasn't that bad, but I really remember why I prefer to knit top down now, and I don't think I'm going to turn into a bottom up knitter anytime soon, even though it has some positives with it, because you could just work on one sleeve without having to carry the whole yoke around with you. You could just work on the body without having to carry the yoke around. So that's the positive part with knitting bottom up, but I just really don't like when you attach the sleeves. But I think and you continue knitting the sleeves in stockinette, and I think the smock pattern still looked quite good, even though I was doing increases and that messed a bit with it. You can see that it has some irregularities here, but I don't really think it sticks out too bad. But it was quite stressful to keep the track on everything while I was also doing decreases. And then after I had done all of the decreases and the ribbing for the neck, I did the button bands, and those are the only thing on this whole cardigan that's knit on another needle than 4mm. The button bands are knit on a 3mm. So I've made both of the button bands. I've done matte to make sure that the buttonholes are exactly the same distance apart, and that was also stressful. Buttons are just really stressful to get them in, to sew them in the right place, and to make buttons hole in the right place. Still haven't done the buttons on this one or weaved in ends, but it's almost done. And the whole time I was so afraid to lose yarn chicken, because the pattern said that you needed 300 grams to make this, but you needed 300 grams of alpaca wool, and alpaca wool from Sandnesgarn is 100 meters, and I really wanted to make it in this color. I really wanted to get the Petiteknit in golden brown, because golden brown is my favorite color, and I think the only yarn that still has golden brown is Petiteknit, and my local yarn store only had 6 skeins, but Petiteknit is 9 meters shorter than alpaca wool. Petiteknit is only 91 meters, so when you times those 9 meters too little with 6 skeins, I was afraid that that would just be too little yarn, because 9 times 6 is what, 54 meters, and that's more than half a skein. So I was a bit stressed the whole time I was knitting this that I would have too little yarn, and it just never stopped, because even when I was knitting on the last button band, it just looked like I would have too little yarn all the way to the end. I was left with next to nothing yarn. Actually, when I weighed this weighs more than 300 grams. I think this weighed 302 grams. So I was just really lucky to get skeins with a bit more yarn on it than they're supposed to have, because if the skeins had all been exactly 50 grams, this wouldn't have worked out. So it was quite stressful, but that was also part of what was motivating me to just crank this out, because I just had to see if I was going to have enough yarn or not. But luckily I did, and it was also quite nice to not really be left with any leftover yarn, so I don't have to figure out what to do with that. And now I'm just really excited to finish the last things on this and give it a wash, so the button bands can stretch a bit out, and the smock pattern is just really stiff. Also Peer Gynt is quite stiff, but the smock is also really stiff before it's been washed and been used a couple of times. But I am really excited to be able to start wearing this soon, and I haven't tried it on my son yet, but I am excited to see how big this is on him, since I made the 4 to 5 year old size, and he's only 2.5. But I think that these are just a bit small. They are not too short, but they're just not wide enough, in my opinion. Of course, you could probably pull on the smock more in blocking, but I think Carl's cardigans run a bit small, so I decided to make this in a bigger size so we would have it longer. So I'm excited to see how it fits in, and if it's just too big for him now, or if he can start wearing it right away. But that's the first project I finished when I got home. And then what else have I been working on? I think I finished this, and then I finished something else. I totally forgot about it. But yesterday we were going to visit a friend that just had a baby, and of course I had to bring a baby gift, and I had previously made a sweater that I started on all the way last year. And when we were like preparing to go visit them, I just looked at that sweater and I just thought to myself that this is a bit too small of a baby gift. I usually give way bigger baby gifts, so I just had to figure out something really quick. So yesterday, because this was yesterday, I decided to look at my yarn, look at the sweater, look at all the patterns that I have, and try to figure out what to do. I think my idea started out with making Sunday socks, because I love making Sunday socks for babies. That's like my go-to thing. But I just thought it would still be a bit too little to just a sweater and some socks. So I thought, okay, I'll do a bloomer, because I don't have that much time. I only have like a few hours today, because I started thinking about this like 9 a.m. and we were going to visit them 6 p.m. So not a lot of hours. So I thought, okay, I'll do a bloomer. Those go by quite quickly. But then I looked at the bloomer pattern that I have, and I just didn't really vibe with it. Also, the sweater was knit in 0 to 3 month size, and the bloomers were either 0 to 2 months or 2 to 4 months. So it just didn't match up in size, and I just didn't love the idea. So I looked at my other patterns, and I found a pair of pants. I think the Ellen's Hente set. I don't know what that's called in English. I'll look it up and write it on the screen. But I found another pattern by Petiteknit where she had a pair of pants that were knit on 4mm, because that was one of microtears just so it would be fast enough to knit. They were knit on 4mm and they came in the size 1 to 3 months, so it matched better with the sweater. So I decided that that was what I was going to make, and I started on that yesterday morning. Started with the I-code and then started on the pants. And I was stressed the whole time knitting them, because it does take a bit of time to knit like the body of the pants. So I think I used 3 maybe hours to do the I didn't get to actually start knitting until it was like closer to 12. So, and then it took me about 3 hours to do like the main part of the pants before the legs. And at that point I had to start thinking about dinner, so I was just really stressed. So I was making dinner while stressing knitting the legs on this pair of pants. But luckily I finished it. I weaved in all the ends because I hadn't weaved in the ends on the sweater either. And I finished it like 5 minutes before we left home to give it away. So I just had time to grab a couple of pictures before giving it away. So that has really been the theme this week, just knitting things and finishing it right before giving it away. I don't think I've had the things I've made this week for more than an hour at most with the mittens. So, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been really fun to knit with a bit of time pressure and knit as fast as I can again. And I love knitting gifts, so that's also been really nice this week. And usually when I knit gifts I have to send them in the mail because we don't go around visiting everyone all the time. But this week I actually got to give it to people face to face, and that was also really nice, so you can actually see the people receiving it. So all of that has just been really great this week. But of course knitting all of those gifts left me with really little time to finish this. But I did manage to finish this as well after we got home from visiting the baby last night, and I finished it a bit this morning as well. So all in all I'm really happy with this week of knitting and how much knitting I've gotten done and what I've chosen to use my knitting time on. It's just been loads of fun projects, and I feel like I have gotten a lot of my knitting mojo back. I feel like the last few weeks I have just been struggling a bit with my knitting mojo because I've just been working on bigger projects that have taken me longer, and I've worked on multiple projects at a time, which has made it take even longer, and that just affects my motivation a little bit too much when my projects take longer than I've imagined. So just taking the time this week to make small projects, and most of these projects weren't planned either. That's because they had such a short deadline, and it's just been really fun to just knit things even though it's not planned, because I usually plan out my knits a lot. I have like a list with the order in which I'm going to knit things, so it's just been really fun to be more spontaneous this week. But I think that being said, with all of my finished projects, I don't know how many projects that end up being. I think 6, and that's like crazy. But also I have been working on a few of those projects for multiple weeks. It just, once I actually started finishing projects, I just kept finishing them. But that's all for my finished projects, and then I think we can move into plans, because I do have quite a few knitting plans. Of course I'm planning to continue on my current whips, but I also have this hipster hat that I think I finished in December, and this is knit in hedgehog fibers in the color Mayday, I think. And I'm in love with this color. I'm in love with the yarn. It feels so soft and wonderful. But I made a mistake when knitting this. I am very bad at reading patterns, and I thought I've knit the hipster hat before, I know what to do. So I just cast on, and already there I had made my mistake because I cast on 4mm needles instead on 3.5, and that has made this beanie just a bit too loose, and this is also super wash, so it's just like it's a bit too loose and it just doesn't sit tightly enough on my head. I want it to be a bit tighter, and I have really tried to love it as it is and just accept that it is a bit looser. So I have worn it a couple of times, even though I haven't weaved in the ends because I haven't been 100% happy. But I have come to the decision now that this yarn is too pretty to just lay there and not be used, because I haven't used it as much as I should just because I'm not 100% happy. So I've decided, instead of settling with something I'm not 100% happy with, I'm going to frog this whole thing and knit it back up. I do love 2x2 ribbing, and I do love the hipster hat. I love this yarn, so I do look forward to it and look forward to getting a beanie I'll actually use, because I don't have a lot of hats, so the ones I make I should use. But the thing that's been holding me back all of these months is that frogging it means that I'm kind of losing all of that knitting time. All the hours spent on making this will then just be wasted, and they kind of are already because I'm not using it, but it just feels way more like wasting them when I'm actually frogging it. But I've decided to just go ahead with frogging it anyway, because I do want to use this yarn for some hat I'll actually use. So that's one of my plans this week, and I think I'll just start frogging it now. And I'm really excited to knit this back up and have something I'll actually wear. So I really hope I'll get the time to do that this week, in between all of my other plans. But this is also just the perfect small project to carry with me while I'm doing other things. So that is my first plan. Now I'm just frogging it because why wait any longer? But I'll take a break from doing that because I am going to show you some of my other plans. Just that's enough. I have ripped out the crown of this, so now there's like no going back. So moving on to my other plans. Of course, I can't let this yarn I got at Sandnes just lay in a corner and not get used. So my plan is to make baby clothes, because I still have another baby in my friend group that I haven't knit for yet. So I'm going to use this yarn. This is Merino Ull by Sandnes Garn in this mauve color. So don't quite know what I'm going to knit, but I'm thinking anchor sweater and maybe a bloomer, because now I'm knitting. When I knit for the baby, I just gave a sweater and pants to. That's more like winter attire, but I'm probably knitting clothes for this baby that will fit more in like spring. So I think a sweater and a bloomer would be perfect for that weather. But since a bloomer is smaller than pants, maybe I'll do socks as well. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about that. But hopefully I'll get to start on at least one baby project this week, because baby projects are just the most motivating to me. So I kind of always want to have at least one baby project on my needles. And then another plan that I really hope to get to this week, but it's kind of the last thing I should prioritize, is this yarn, this Cardigan in the color Poppy. that I am just craving to cast on and make a Ingrid sweater with. I think an Ingrid with this would just be everything, and I want to knit on it so badly. But I've just finished a knit for myself. I still have a knit for myself on the needle, if you're not counting the wedding dress. So I think it would be good for me and everything to take a bit of a break from just casting on projects for myself all the time and just focus on finishing the one I do have and on baby knits. But I don't know if I can resist, because this red is just everything, and I have been wanting an Ingrid for some time. I did make an Ingrid almost a year ago, but I gave that to my sister, and ever since I've kind of been jealous that she has one and I don't. So I just really want to make an Ingrid, and this yarn is just everything. But I'm trying to hold off just because I have been knitting a lot for myself lately, and I do get more motivated if I knit more varied. So I'm trying to wait and just focus on my other projects a bit first. Also this one. And then I also have a lot of projects that I need to weave in the ends for. I think I have like between 10 and 15 projects that I haven't weaved in the ends for, and I have taken them with me to like my crafting corner, and I had every intention of weaving in the ends, but then every time I'm about to weave in the ends I get a really good idea for something I want to knit, and then I don't end up weaving in any ends, and the next time I am ready to go and weave in ends I have even more projects to weave in the ends for, and then I get another good idea for something I want to knit. But I do really want to get to it, so hopefully this week, instead of casting on another project for myself, I'll actually finish weaving in ends and buttons, everything. But I think that no, I have even more plans. Because when I was visiting my twin cousins, I got some yarn from their mother, because she has been wanting to knit them an outfit for when they are christened. First they'll wear like the christening gown or dress or what you call it, but then to have an outfit after that, because they are getting christened in the woods. So she wanted to knit something for them, but she has twins, so she doesn't have that much knitting time, and I love knitting for them, so I said I would love to knit for them. So I got this Drops Daisy to make them a part of their christening outfit, and I'm going to make them Carl's cardigans, like this one, just in Drops Daisy. I still don't know exactly what size I'm going to knit, so I am still waiting on that, what size will be the best to knit. But I'm going to be making 2 Carl's cardigan in this color, because the thing I'm going to be knit to kind of differentiate between the twins is that I'm going to be making 2 Moby slipovers. Moby Slipover Baby in these 2 colors, in Drops Baby Merino. This is Petroleum Green and this is North Sea, I think. And I love these colors together, so each one of these is going to turn into a Moby Slipover. Still don't know the size for this either, but I'm thinking 3 to 6 months. So hopefully that shouldn't take me too long. The christening isn't until June, so I still have some time, but I would like to just be finished with this so I know I'll be done in time, because I have said that I'm going to be able to do it, so I really want to make sure that I'm able to do it. So that's another plan I have, and the only reason why I haven't cast on yet is that I don't know exactly what size I'm going to be knitting, but as soon as I know that, I'm going to be casting on. So that's another plan for this week that I almost forgot about. I do have a lot of plans, and I feel like even though I've gotten a lot of knitting done this week, I've made even more plans. So I just feel like I never quite catch up to all of my plans, even though I knit a lot. But all that being said, I think that's everything I have for this week. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. And if you want to continue seeing more from me, please subscribe. Bye!